There's a moment, right before everything changes. It's quiet, uncomfortable, uncertain. Most people never notice it. But the people who succeed build their entire lives around that moment. Because success is not built on talent, not built on intelligence, not even built on opportunity. It's built on commitment. And that's where this story begins. Imagine a man standing alone at dawn. The world is still asleep. The streets are empty. The air is cold. He has no audience, no applause, no guarantees. Only a decision to show up again. This is the core idea behind commitment mentality, a powerful philosophy about what truly separates those who dream from those who actually achieve. Because here's the truth most people avoid. Motivation is temporary. Inspiration fades. Goals change. But commitment is what stays. And the book begins with a simple but uncomfortable question. What if success has nothing to do with how you feel, and everything to do with what you decide? Before we go deeper, if you're someone who enjoys calm, powerful ideas about mindset, discipline, and personal growth, consider liking the video and subscribing. It helps bring more content like this and keeps this journey going. Now, back to the story. The author introduces us to a familiar pattern. You've probably seen it before. Someone gets excited about a new goal. They want to get in shape, start a business, write a book, change their life. For a few days, maybe even a few weeks, they're unstoppable. They wake up early. They work harder. They feel energized. Then something happens. Life gets difficult. They get tired, busy, discouraged, and slowly, they stop. Not because they're incapable, but because they were relying on motivation instead of commitment. And this is where commitment mentality shifts everything. Because commitment doesn't depend on how you feel. It's a quiet agreement you make with yourself to continue, even when it's boring, even when it's hard, even when no one is watching. The book tells a simple but powerful story. Two people start the same journey, same goal, same excitement, same beginning. But months later, their paths look completely different. One stopped when things got difficult. The other didn't. Not because they were stronger. Not because they were smarter. But because they made one small decision. They chose commitment over comfort. And that decision changed everything. Here's something even more interesting. The book explains that commitment is not a personality trait. It's not something you're born with. It's something you build. One decision at a time. One day at a time. One small promise, kept. Think about it. Every time you say you'll do something, and you do it, you strengthen commitment. Every time you quit, you weaken it. Over time, this becomes your identity. You either become someone who follows through, or someone who doesn't. And once that identity forms, it shapes your entire life. But here's the deeper layer, the one the book slowly begins to reveal. Commitment is not just about achieving goals. It's about becoming someone different. Because when you commit, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop asking, do I feel like it? Instead, you begin asking, is this who I decided to become? And that's where everything begins to change. Because commitment doesn't just change your results. It changes you. But the book also warns us. There's a hidden obstacle most people don't see. Something that quietly destroys commitment before it even begins. It's subtle. It's common. And almost everyone falls into it. And in part 2, we'll uncover what it is and how the strongest minds learn to overcome it. But the book also warns us. There's a hidden obstacle most people don't see. Something that quietly destroys commitment before it even begins. It's not fear. It's not laziness. It's not even failure. It's negotiation. The silent conversation you have with yourself. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it when I feel ready. I'll try, just this once. These small negotiations feel harmless. But over time, they reshape your identity. Because every time you negotiate, you teach your mind that commitment is optional. And once commitment becomes optional, everything else starts to fall apart. The book introduces a simple but powerful idea: committed people don't negotiate with their standards. They remove the debate. Think about someone who works out every morning. They don't wake up and ask, "Do I feel like going today?" They already decided. So instead of wasting energy deciding, they use that energy doing. This is what the author calls mental energy conservation. Because decision-making is exhausting. The more you debate, the more tired your mind becomes. And eventually, you choose the easier path. That's why commitment is powerful. It removes the debate. It removes the friction. It removes the hesitation. And suddenly, action becomes natural. The book then introduces something deeper. Most people think commitment is about big decisions. But it's not. It's built in small, invisible moments. The moment you don't hit snooze. The moment you finish what you started. The moment you show up when it's inconvenient. These moments seem small. But they compound. Just like interest in a bank account. Every small act of commitment adds to your internal confidence. And over time, you start trusting yourself. And that changes everything. Because one of the biggest reasons people fail is not lack of skill. It's lack of self-trust. They don't believe they'll follow through. So they stop aiming higher. They lower their expectations. They shrink their goals. Not because they can't achieve more, but because they don't trust themselves enough to try. Commitment rebuilds that trust. Slowly. Quietly. Powerfully. The book tells another story. A woman decides to write a book. She doesn't have time. She works full-time. She's tired every evening. So she makes a small commitment. 10 minutes a day. That's it. No pressure. No perfection. Just 10 minutes. Some days, she writes more. Some days, she barely writes anything. But she never misses. Weeks pass. Then months. One day, she realizes something surprising. She's not struggling anymore. Writing became part of her identity. She's no longer someone trying to write a book. She's a writer. And eventually, the book is finished. Not through motivation, but through quiet, consistent commitment. This is when the book reveals another powerful idea: commitment creates momentum. And momentum reduces resistance. When you stop starting and stopping, things become easier. You waste less time restarting. You carry forward energy. And suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes manageable. But there's still another layer. Because commitment is not just about discipline. It's also about meaning. The book explains that strong commitment is tied to something deeper. A reason. A purpose. A vision. When your commitment is connected to something meaningful, it becomes harder to quit. You're not just working toward a goal. You're working toward the person you want to become. And that changes how you see obstacles. They're no longer signs to stop. They become part of the journey. But then, the book introduces its most uncomfortable truth yet. Commitment will eventually lead you to a moment where everything feels uncertain. Progress slows. Results don't appear. Doubt grows. This is the moment where most people quit. Not at the beginning, but right before the breakthrough. And in part 3, we'll step into that moment. Because this is where commitment is truly tested. And where the strongest minds are finally revealed. This is the moment. The quiet point where effort feels invisible. Where progress feels slow. Where doubt begins to whisper. You've been showing up. You've been committed. You've been doing the work. But nothing seems to be changing. And this is where most people stop. Not because they're weak, but because they mistake silence for failure. The book calls this the commitment gap. It's the distance between effort and visible results. And here's the uncomfortable truth: every meaningful goal lives inside that gap. The entrepreneur building something nobody believes in. The athlete training without recognition. The writer working in silence. They all pass through this invisible phase. And during this phase, there's no applause. Only commitment. The author explains something powerful here. Most people don't fail because they can't succeed. They fail because they stop too early. They stop just before momentum compounds. Just before confidence builds. Just before things begin to shift. Because success is rarely loud at the beginning. It's quiet. Slow. Invisible. Until one day, it isn't. The book shares a simple but profound idea: commitment is not tested when things are easy. It's tested when nothing seems to be working. This is where identity forms. Because when you continue, despite uncertainty, you become someone different. You stop chasing quick results. You stop relying on motivation. You begin trusting the process. And something subtle happens. You stop focusing only on outcomes and start valuing who you're becoming. This is the deepest message of commitment mentality. Commitment is not about forcing yourself. It's about alignment. Your actions matching your values. Your decisions matching your vision. And when that alignment happens, discipline becomes natural. Because you're no longer pushing yourself. You're simply becoming who you decided to be. The book brings everything together with one final idea. Commitment simplifies life. Because once you decide, you remove confusion. You don't ask, should I do it today? Should I keep going? Should I quit? You already answered those questions. And suddenly, your energy is no longer spent deciding. It's spent building, creating, improving, moving forward. And over time, this quiet consistency transforms everything. Not overnight, but steadily. Imagine looking back 1 year from now. Not because you found the perfect motivation, but because you stayed committed. You showed up. You continued. You didn't negotiate. Small steps became habits. Habits became identity. Identity became results. And one day, you realized something powerful. You didn't just reach a goal. You became someone capable of reaching any goal. That's the true power of commitment. Because in the end, success isn't about intensity. It's about consistency. It's about showing up when no one is watching, continuing when no one believes, and trusting that your effort is shaping something even when you can't see it yet. So here's the question this book leaves us with: what would your life look like if you stopped negotiating and started committing? Not for a week, not for motivation, but for the long journey. Because somewhere, right now, there's a quiet decision waiting for you. The same decision that separates dreams from reality. And maybe that moment is happening right now. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is one thing you're ready to commit to? Share it in the comments. And if you enjoy calm, powerful ideas like this, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss the next journey. Because sometimes, one idea, one decision, one commitment can quietly change everything.